So here we are at the Emily Tract. It's one of the most beautiful little trails in the Kawarthas, and we're coming here on a little special trip to feed the birds today. So I always have in the back of my car, amongst other things, bird seed, and that's what we're going to take in today to feed the birds. So here we are on the trail. This is the Emily Tract, as I said. It is a beautiful trail. There are 3 trails incorporated into one, and they're about, I don't know, between 1.2 and 1.6 kilometers long, and you can combine all of these 3 or do one at a time. I would say it's a good beginner's trail. There's a couple of little uphills, but not too much, and it sits right on the backside of the Emily Provincial Park. And as you can see, there are some pretty old trees here. These are white pines, you can see in the background there. That's probably about 75 to 100 years old, I'd guess. Anyway, it is a beautiful canopy, and of course this time of year it's a fall morning, kind of chilly. It's about 3 degrees centigrade, and but the dappled sunlight as you're walking through is just unbelievably beautiful. These white pines here, this was a prized tree that was used for making masts back in the days of the tall ships, and the loggers would, this is second growth, but the loggers would have come in here in the winter time and cut down 1 million to 1.5 million board feet per winter season. Unbelievable. Teams of 20 men. Hard to believe. That's some work, I'll tell you. Anyway, so we're into second growth, and thankfully somebody has set this aside to preserve this area so we can all enjoy, our children, our grandchildren can enjoy walking through these beautiful trails. But we're here today on a special little trip because there is a gentleman comes in here and walks his dog, and but there's an area up here where he's sort of made a little sit-down area, and he feeds the birds and the squirrels every day. So I brought some bird seed with me, and I'm going to sit up there with my video camera and see if I can get some decent shots of some interesting birds coming in, and yeah, as a celebration to nature. These trails are used by many and all, just no motorized vehicles and no hunting. And this, I believe, is part of Emily Creek. Moving, not sure whether this is a beaver dam or the beginnings of. Anyway, the water is clean and clear. I've seen fish in here, and blue herons feeding on the frogs. Beautiful, beautiful spot. You really can almost imagine what early settlers must have felt like coming to this brave new country. And I know it's a pretty checkered history, and you know, I don't want to get into that, but just as an experience to be had, I can imagine back in those old days walking down these trails, these logging trails. A pristine countryside. And it's a pity that this is just a postage stamp size piece of what was all over this country before the land barons came. It's actually an interesting history how the land barons bought up the trees. They saw the value of the property, and then they basically conned the public with cheap fares and lies about mild winters and all of this kind of stuff. Everyone's going to be a millionaire. There's a land where everyone could get rich. And of course, when those settlers arrived here, they found a completely different story. Many of them arrived late in the year, not knowing what to expect in an Ontario winter, which is, wow, it's pretty chilly. You better be prepared. You better be prepared. And of course they weren't. And so their only option was to go and work for the land barons at absolute, minimum pay. You talk about taking advantage of people. Poor, unsuspecting, unwitting, poor people who didn't know any better, had no access to real information other than wild tales of gold mines and riches of lumber. And I'm sure that these were propaganda messages that were put out deliberately to get people to take advantage of these cheap fares and free offers of, your own plot of land, maybe an acre or something, if you clear it. Anyway, in lighter moments, it must have been very enjoyable walking down here as it is now, but all over Canada, in these pristine forests. I don't know if you're noticing, but apart from the rustle of my feet through the leaves, there is no sound at all in here. No traffic, no breeze. It is the most beautiful day. This is November the 14th, and it's more like a North Carolina, Vermont kind of winter, which is interesting because the North Pole had been moving quite quickly towards Russia, which would mean that Canada is going to end up roughly where North Carolina is. So there you go. So here we are at the top of the hill, probably the highest point up here, and look, they're already coming in, cheeky little devils. Those are the chickadees. Okay, so I'm going to cast this around so that and I got two of these. Come on, Jazz. And I got two of these. So yeah. So all of the seed is out, and the first birds to come in, of course, are the chickadees. Come on! Now this, I believe, coming down the tree is a nuthatch. Come on! Come on then! This is a great spot to meditate. Lots of chickadees. It is so nice to be close to nature like this, to know that nature feels safe enough to come in this close. And who knows, maybe one day I'll get the meeting out of my hand. I've seen that happen, but this is only the first few times that I've been feeding them. And as I say, I know this older gentleman does the same thing, so I figured they would be kind of tame already. And so I think I'm going to do this on a regular basis and just see how many different birds. Now that there, I believe, is a nuthatch. But this here is the champion of the show. She is just fine with all of this. She's never made a move towards the birds. She's just kind of fascinated. But yeah, I love the non-aggression thing, because we spend a lot of time in nature, and I want her to be able to sit and be quiet or lay down whilst I'm doing this videoing, so that it's not a distraction to the wildlife coming in. You wonder how these little birds manage to keep warm in the winter time. As you may know, Canada can go down quite cold in January, February. Sometimes minus 25, minus 30, and that's such a small body to try and keep warm. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this short little video out in nature, and in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant morning and weekend, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. Bye-bye.